welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at how to maximize your contribution in life.
Without burning out.
Exactly. And our guide for this deep dive is Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. Get ready for some fascinating concepts, intriguing stories.
And even a revolutionary clear plastic record player.
Oh, you mean the one designed by Dieter Rams?
That's the one. He was obsessed with eliminating noise and focusing on essence.
Makes sense.
McKeown uses that example to illustrate a core principle of essentialism, you know?
Discerning the vital few from the trivial many.
Yes. It's like Rams cut through all the clutter and expectations of what a record player should look like.
To get to the heart of its function.
Exactly. It makes you wonder.
What other essential things are we missing?
Right, because we're so focused on all the non-essential noise.
It's so easy to get caught up in that. And McKeown argues that a key difference between essentialists and non-essentialists
is their mindset around choice. Non-essentialists feel like they have to do everything.
while essentialists consciously choose what to focus on.
Exactly.
You know, it's interesting because I think most of us probably think we're making conscious choices. But when you really step back and look at it,
How many of our daily decisions are actually driven by obligation, guilt, or FOMO?
it's true. The fear of missing out is a powerful thing.
It is. McKeown tells the story of this law student.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had this aha moment like halfway through law school where he realized law school,
I wasn't even on his list.
not even on his list.
Yeah.
All those things he wanted to do with his life, and law school was nowhere on it. You know, he was just going through the motions, doing what he thought he should be doing.
Yeah.
Took some serious self-awareness to recognize that and make a change.
That's a powerful story. And it speaks to the importance of regularly checking in with ourselves, don't you think?
Yeah.
Asking ourselves, is this what I truly want?
Absolutely.
It's so easy to fall into autopilot, especially with major life decisions.
Absolutely. But essentialism is about taking back that control.
And consciously designing a life that aligns with our values.
Yes. And a big part of that is accepting that every yes to something essential requires saying no to a lot of other things.
A lot of other things.
McKeown calls this the discipline of trade-offs.
So it's like we only have so much bandwidth, right? So if we're constantly spreading ourselves thin, trying to do it all.
They sacrifice quality and impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He uses Southwest Airlines as an example.
A company that really embraced this idea of strategic trade-offs.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, they chose to focus on being the low-cost leader.
Okay.
And that meant making some unconventional choices. They only did point-to-point flights.
Interesting.
No assigned seating, no meals.
Things other airlines considered essential.
Right. But Southwest recognized that cutting them out.
It allowed them to really excel in their chosen area.
Exactly.
That's wild how those seemingly small choices
Can have a huge impact on the overall success.
of a company. I mean, even a person's life for that matter. Speaking of which, I was so fascinated by McKeown's comparison of Southwest's approach.
To Continental Airlines.
Continental Light Service. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Continental, they tried to copy Southwest's low-cost model
Okay.
while still maintaining their existing full-service model.
Ah, so they were trying to kind of straddle the two.
And it was a disaster.
Really?
They tried to avoid making hard choices, and they wound up compromising both their service and their bottom line.
So it really illustrates the danger of trying to be everything to everyone.
A classic non-essentialist trap.
So it's not enough to just understand this concept of trade-offs. We have to actually put it into practice.
Yes,
Make those difficult decisions, even when it means saying no to things.
that seem important.
And McHugh makes this point, doesn't he, that we either make those hard choices ourselves,
Or someone else will.
and those choices won't always be in our best interest.
He shares that story of Erin Callan, former CFO of Lehman Brothers.
Yeah, she talks about how she gradually,
Let work consume her entire life.
because she never set boundaries.
Exactly.
It's a real cautionary tale
It is.
about the importance of being intentional about where we direct our
Oh,
energy.
jeez.
That's so true. I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling of being pulled in a million directions.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're constantly reacting to external demand.
Instead of proactively designing our lives.
So if we accept that we need to make choices and embrace these trade-offs,
Where do we even begin?
where do we begin?
McKeown argues that the first step is creating space,
Space
both mental and physical, for concentration, exploration.
and renewal.
Yeah.
Okay, but how do we do that? We're all so busy these days.
Right.
It's not like we can just snap our fingers and suddenly have hours of free time.
McKeown talks about how Bill Gates, even during the busiest times at Microsoft, would disappear for a week, twice a year.
Oh yeah, for his Think Week.
His Think Week.
Hmm.
He would just immerse himself in books and ideas. It seems counterintuitive,
It really does.
but that dedicated time for reflection.
Crucial to his ability to lead and innovate.
It was.
That makes so much sense, like stepping back from the
And
canvas.
see the bigger picture.
Exactly. I also remember that story about the executive who literally checked into a motel with no internet access just to escape distractions and finish an important project.
Desperate times.
It's a pretty drastic example, but
It highlights how addicted we've become.
to constant connectivity.
Yes.
I mean, there are benefits,
Yeah.
but it also comes at a cost.
It does, often to our ability to do deep, focused work.
Okay. So what else?
McKeown also suggests making time for reading,
Makes sense.
particularly classic literature,
Oh, interesting. Why classic literature?
as a way to broaden your perspective, center yourself. Even just 20 minutes a day can make a difference.
It's like a mini Think Week built into your daily routine. I love that.
Yeah.
But once we've carved out that space,
How do we figure out what's essential?
yeah, amidst all the noise,
That's the question. That's where the ability to discern what really matters comes in. McKeown tells this great story about Nora Ephron.
the screenwriter.
Yes, and a lesson she learned from her high school journalism teacher. He had the class write the lead for a story about a meeting, but they all focused on,
The who, what, when, and where.
exactly. He told them they were wrong. The real lead was, there will be no school Thursday.
He was teaching them to look for the meaning behind the facts.
The essential point.
It's so easy to get caught up in the details.
And miss the bigger picture.
Or even worse, misinterpret it entirely.
Like the Eastern Airlines Flight 401 crash.
Oh, wow. Yeah, where the pilots became fixated on that minor issue with the landing gear indicator light.
And they totally missed the essential detail.
Their altitude.
Exactly.
They lost sight of what truly mattered in that moment.
The
And
consequences were tragic.
that's a chilling example of how focusing on the non-essential,
Can have really dire consequences.
it really underscores the importance of developing that skill
Yeah.
of seeing the essential
Through all the clutter.
through all the noise.
Yeah.
What does he suggest for that?
Journaling
Oh, interesting.
as a tool for reflection and discernment. It's a way to become a journalist of your own life.
Yeah.
Documenting your experiences and extracting meaning from them.
That's a fantastic idea, like taking a step back and observing your own life as a researcher, looking for those patterns and insights.
Exactly.
But it's not enough to just identify what's essential. We also had to figure out how to let go,
Of the non-essentials.
which can be a lot harder than it sounds.
It can. We often fall victim to sunk cost bias.
Oh, tell me about it. It's that tendency to keep investing in something, even when it's clearly not working, simply because we've already put in so much
Time, energy.
money. It's like watching a terrible movie just because you already bought the ticket.
Or staying in a job you hate just because you've been there so long.
We've all been there.
McKeown uses the example of the Concorde jet.
Oh, yeah.
It was this marvel of engineering, a massive financial failure.
But they just kept pouring money into it.
Even when it was clear it wasn't sustainable, they were so focused on what they had already invested that they totally lost sight of the bigger picture.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the best decision,
Is to cut our losses and walk away.
even if it feels so counterintuitive. But how do we actually do that? Letting go can be so emotionally charged.
McKeown offers a few practical tips.
Okay, like what?
Well, one is to pretend you don't already own it. So if you were faced with that opportunity or commitment for the first time today,
Would you still choose it?
that question can help you detach from the sunk costs and see things more objectively.
Detach from the emotion of it all. Look at it from a fresh perspective.
Right. He also talks about the importance of getting over FOMO.
The fear of missing out.
That's it. We often cling to things because we're so afraid of what we might miss if we let go.
Makes sense.
But sometimes missing out can be the best thing for us. It opens up space for something even better.
Oh, I like that.
It's like decluttering your closet. You get rid of the old stuff to make room for new things you'll love.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of decluttering,
It's a great segue into this idea of editing our lives.
oh yeah, and it's not just about getting rid of physical clutter. It's being ruthless editors.
Of our commitments, our activities, even our thoughts.
Editing our thoughts. That's interesting.
McKeown points out that most Best Picture winners at the Oscars.
They're also nominated for Best Film Editing.
Editing is crucial to creating a masterpiece, and the same principle applies to our lives.
I never thought about it like that before. So we're all directors of our own lives.
And we have the power to shape the narrative by choosing
What to include and what to cut.
right. And it's not just about saying no to things.
It's also about being very intentional about.
And we do say yes to.
McKeown talks about setting clear boundaries.
And crafting what he calls social contracts.
Oh, interesting. So it's like having these upfront conversations with people.
About expectations and limits.
Being really clear about what you're willing to do.
And what you're not.
It's often much easier to set those expectations up front.
Than to try to renegotiate later on.
For sure. Which
Right.
can lead to all kinds of resentment and misunderstandings.
He also emphasizes the power of a graceful no.
It's a skill that takes practice.
It does. But it's essential for protecting our time and energy.
And remember, saying no to something doesn't have to be this harsh or confrontational thing.
You can always offer an alternative or suggest someone else.
Right.
It's about being respectful of your own needs.
While being considerate of others.
Exactly.
So we've talked about creating space, discerning what matters, uncommitting from those non-essentials, and editing our lives.
It's a lot.
It is. What happens once we've done all that?
Then things get really interesting.
Oh, how so?
McKeown delves into the science of execution,
The science of executing.
exploring strategies for making those essential actions as effortless as possible.
Okay, because I think a lot of us struggle with execution even when we know what we should be doing. It's like there's this gap.
Between intention and action.
And how do we bridge that gap?
Well, one of the most powerful tools
Okay.
is routine.
Routine.
McKeown offers a variety of strategies, and we've touched on a few already, like setting clear deadlines, breaking down large tasks into smaller steps, creating those visual reward systems, saying no to ourselves, building those buffers into our schedules. But one of the most powerful tools
And one we keep coming back to.
is the power of routine.
It is interesting how routines keep popping up as this essential element.
Mm.
It seems counterintuitive. Shouldn't embracing essentialism mean like having more freedom and flexibility?
Not being tied to routines.
Yeah.
That's a great point. It's not about being rigid or inflexible. It's about leveraging the power of automation when we create routines for those essential activities.
Waking up, exercising,
Working on a key project.
even winding down at night.
Yeah, we free up so much mental energy for the things that really require our focus and our creativity.
It's like we're outsourcing those mundane, repetitive tasks to our subconscious minds. So our conscious minds can be more present and engaged.
In the moment.
Exactly. And when we combine those routines with the other strategies that we've talked about, like setting clear goals, eliminating distractions, prioritizing sleep,
We create this powerful synergy.
that makes execution almost effortless.
Almost.
It's like setting ourselves up for success, creating an environment that really supports our essential goals.
Yeah.
But I think even with all the right systems and strategies in place, there's still this element of mindset that's so crucial to actually living this essentialist life.
Absolutely. And that's where the concept of living in the now comes in. McKeown really emphasizes the importance of being fully present in the moment, focusing on what's important right now.
He tells that story about feeling so overwhelmed after this busy day in New York City.
Pulled in all directions.
Yeah, but then he stopped and asked himself, what's important now?
Such a simple question.
But so powerful.
And it helped him recenter and prioritize.
That's a great reminder that we can't control everything.
But we can control our attention.
It's true. Every second we spend dwelling on the past or worrying about the future is a second we're not spending fully engaged in the present moment.
We're trading the only moment we have control over the now for something that doesn't even exist yet.
Or is already gone.
And the more we practice bringing our attention back to the present moment, the more we cultivate that sense of peace.
Clarity and purpose.
Exactly.
So it's not just about doing the essential things. It's about being an essentialist, being present, intentional, and fully engaged in whatever we're doing.
That's a great way to put it. And while essentialism is often framed in terms of productivity and effectiveness, McKeown ultimately argues that it's about creating a life of meaning and purpose.
Aligning our actions with our values, living in a way that feels authentic and fulfilling.
He uses the example of Gandhi as someone who lived a life of radical essentialism.
Oh, yeah.
He simplified his life to the extreme, focusing on his singular mission of liberating the oppressed.
Paring down his possessions, his diet.
Even his words, believing in reducing himself to zero, eliminating everything that didn't contribute to his purpose.
I mean, we don't all need to become Gandhi, but his example is incredibly inspiring. It really shows the power of living with intention and focusing on what truly matters.
It does. It's about asking ourselves those tough questions. What is my purpose? What do I stand for? What legacy do I want to leave behind?
And then having the courage to align our actions with those answers.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about getting more done. It's about making sure that what we are getting done is actually aligned with our values and contributes to a life of purpose.
That's it. And ultimately, McKeown argues an essentialist life is a life without regret.
Without regret.
It's about making choices that we can look back on and feel proud of, choices that reflect who we truly are and what we believe in.
That's a really powerful idea.
Mm.
And I think this is a great way to wrap up this deep dive into essentialism. As you reflect on everything we've discussed today, I'm going to leave you with this question. What's one thing you can change to live a more essentialist life?
What's one non-essential commitment you can let go of?
What's one essential activity you can prioritize?
Start small.
Be consistent.
And trust the process. The rewards of essentialism?
They're worth it.
They are. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into essentialism.
We hope you found it insightful.
And inspiring.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.
And keep living, essentially,